Hey folks, Jake here again. Now before we jump into today's video, this is the fourth video in a video series I'm releasing that's purely focused on showing you just what a basic financial plan could look like, and making sure you understand each aspect of that plan. Now so far, we've reviewed why you should be investing, where you can save, and creating a thorough but manageable budget. Now as all these pieces of the puzzle will eventually work hand in hand, I encourage you to go back and check out the previous videos so you can follow along as we go through this together. Now today we're going to be diving into creating a savings plan. As we briefly reviewed in my budgeting video, our budget covers our needs, while our savings plan is going to cover our wants. These are our goals, the things we're looking forward to doing on top of our basic expenses. This could be your own retirement, it could be a child's future, it could be a dream vacation. Whatever is most important to you in your life in the short term or the long term, we need to make sure that we're allocating money for those desires. Before we get into any numbers or percentages of income or anything like that, you have to understand that the most important part of our savings plan is going to be your goals. Your goals are going to drive this plan. Your goals are going to show you what is most important to you right now and hopefully keep you on track as well. So how do you even figure out those goals? What are the most important things to consider when you're deciding which goals to prioritize? As an advisor, I never want to put goals in your head because ultimately it's your plan. And I like to just go over some common life goals though, because it can often get the gears turning and just start the conversation, which will lead to you narrowing down your own priorities. So with that said, let's briefly look at some different age groups and what goals might correspond with those age groups. So our first age group are the individuals in their 20s and 30s. And this is easily the most important time in your financial life. This group is getting their first job, they're starting their careers, they're furthering their education. Now, these common goals are all focused around establishing your life and your financial foundation. The greatest benefit someone in this age group has is time. And it's an age-old piece of advice, and we've all heard it probably 100 times over, but start early. Even though we all know this, many of us still don't sit down and have a real conversation with a professional until further down the road. Start early, get organized early, and get focused early. Because even doing a little bit today can mean so much 10, 15, 30 years from now. And for this age group, there are going to be a lot of short-term priorities. Living independently, purchasing a home, starting a family. These are all goals that will often take priority over longer-term goals. And that is perfectly fine, but the pitfall here is that you cannot let your long-term goals fade from your mind because time moves quick. Before you know it, it could be years later and you still haven't adjusted for those goals. So it's a balancing act between your short-term priorities and your long-term priorities at this stage. But that's why it's so important to sit down and seriously look at these things early on and think through a solid savings plan. Now, this next age group are going to be our individuals in their 40s and 50s. These are individuals who are well established in their lives at this point. Maybe they have a family who is growing or aging. Maybe they're looking to retire early. They're taking care of some elderly family members. This is a crucial time to make sure you're organized because often enough, I find someone in this age group has pivoted their focus from their families to themselves. They're focused on maximizing their own savings, catching up in retirement, maybe paying down any remaining debts before retirement. This group just wants to be confident heading into their own retirement. And then finally, we have our group in the 60s and 70s. These individuals are either in retirement or on the verge of heading into retirement. These individuals are going to be focused on making sure that they can survive their retirement financially solvent and comfortably. Or they often have a focus of making sure that the next generations are taken care of and that they can leave a legacy that they can be remembered for. For many individuals in this age group, this is actually the most difficult time in a person's life in terms of financially planning. The financial planning is focused on making money last and discovering the best ways to leave that money for the next generation. That means tax planning, income planning, estate planning, dealing with real estate, dealing with wills, establishing trusts. Now, many consider our working years, the years we're saving, as the most difficult financial years. But it's really not. With a simple plan, you can often automate a lot of your saving and investing, not to disregard many of the financial difficulties along the way, but imagine being retired, having just a pool of savings, having no guarantee as to any future income. On top of that, you're dealing with still the unexpected health and family emergencies, just like when you were younger. The difference is that you don't have a steady stream of income from a job. Retirement is simply unemployment while living the same lifestyles as you were when you were working. Now, hopefully reviewing some of these common life goals has got you thinking about your own situation and your own ambitious objectives. Now, functionally, how do you decide how much to save towards each goal? Do you follow one of the rules out there, like save 10% of your income? Do you do the 50-30-20 rule, or do you just go by what your budget allows? Whatever your number ends up being, there are three things to consider when putting together your savings plan. That is, what is your time horizon? What is your position today? And where do you want to be at the end of that time horizon? Now let's refer back to the budget example from the last video. We're going to use Joe Smith, who's 35 years old. Joe's got three major goals. The first being a home purchase in 3 years. He has $25,000 saved today and wants $45,000 saved for a down payment. The second goal is going to be college for his son in 15 years, for which he has $10,000 saved today, wants to accumulate $120,000 by the time his son is 18. And lastly, he wants to make sure he's saving for his own retirement in 27 years. He has $40,000 saved, and he wants $750,000 saved by the time he's 62. Now, if you remember our budget video from the last example, we had about $700 a month left over to put towards our savings. Now, based on these goals, how do we split that $700 up? Let's just go over one way this could be done. I'm going to break this savings plan into 3 phases based on his 3 goals. Each phase will prioritize his savings based on his nearest term goal. So let's just look at what phase 1 would look like. As you can see here, in phase 1, Joe decides to put $500 a month towards his home purchase 3 years from now. That's $6,000 per year. And because it's such a short-term goal, and he needs this money at the end of that time horizon, no matter what, he decides to simply use a savings or a cash equivalent style account. It's only going to earn him about 1% growth each year. Now, at the end of that 3-year period, he'll have grown that money to about $43,900, getting very close to that goal. Now, he's keeping in mind his other 2 goals as well, and he saves $100 a month towards each of those goals, $1,200 a year. And with those time horizons being longer, he's going to invest and hopes to get about 7.5% average annual return in each of those accounts. This will give his college fund $16,300 and his retirement fund $53,500 for his retirement at the end of that 3-year time horizon. So now that goal number 1 is complete, we can move on to phase 2, which is going to prioritize his son's college, while beginning to save more aggressively towards his own retirement. So this is with 12 years until that second time horizon is taken up when his son goes to college. Joe's going to save $400 a month or $4,800 a year at a 7.5% average annual return. And at the end of this term, he could be looking at roughly $127,250, achieving his $120,000 goal. Keeping retirement in mind, he will put $300 a month or $3,600 a year away and expects that same average return. This puts his retirement savings near $193,750. So now that his son is saved for and off to college, Joe can now narrow his priority to catching up on his own retirement savings, which brings us to phase 3. With 12 years left until he's 62 and his retirement age goal, Joe puts all $700 a month or $8,400 a year towards retirement. With that same 7.5% average annual return, he's going to be looking at $616,200 at the end of that time horizon at 62 years old. Now, this falls far short of his goal. What could he adjust so that he reaches that goal? Does he work a few more years and save more aggressively? Does he have to invest more aggressively? Does he adjust his phase 2 plan and put more towards retirement instead of his son's college? Now, obviously, this is just an example. Joe's financial situation is going to change year over year. He may make more money. His expenses may lessen over time. Things may become even tougher financially, restricting his savings more. The more you consider Joe's plan, the more you realize just how important it is to put a plan like this together, how important it is to set realistic expectations, and just how important it is to maintain and adjust that plan over time. Now, I'm not trying to equate finances to war, but no strategy survives first contact with the enemy. simply meaning there are variables that will always be unpredictable, things that we cannot account for when we put these plans together. And it all circles back to that one persistent piece of advice: start as early as you can. You'll only make it easier on yourself. So now that we've discussed accounting for your expenses, accounting for your savings, where you can put those savings, and why you should be investing a good portion of your savings, we need to figure out just who each of us are as investors and what risks we are willing to take. Some of us won't give a dip in our investments a second thought, while some of us will lose sleep after reading one headline about stress in the stock market. So next time, we're going to go through an example risk quiz, giving us all a better idea of who we are as investors and guiding us further towards putting all of our puzzle pieces in place. Stay tuned.